Appreciate everyone being here today, and we'll start with page one. Mr. Rob O'Connor, Director of Office of Information Technology, Bill 29-21, Emergency Broadband Education Assistance.
Good afternoon, Chairman Jones. How are you this afternoon?
I'm doing very well. Rob,
Good.
how are you doing?
I'm doing well, fully vaccinated and feeling healthy. So
That's
advise
good.
all to do the same.
Feel
So
good after you get that second shot, right?
yep, they do an amazing job out there. So thank you all for your time today. The administration is requesting a supplemental appropriation of state funds totaling $38,557 to the Emergency Broadband Education Assistance Gifts and Grant Fund Program. The funds will be used by Baltimore County Public Schools to provide equipment and services necessary for emergency broadband access in unserved and underserved communities in the county where BCPS students have limited access to broadband internet for online learning during the COVID-19 pandemic. Overall, the BCPS organization has installed external Wi-Fi access points at 21 current school locations. And plans to use the remaining funds to install external access points at 6 additional school locations to enhance their external internet access availability during times and periods when schools are closed and not permitting individuals to come inside.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, Councilman Katz.
Yes, Rob,
Yes, sir.
with your summary, are you saying that this money is being used to equip these schools, libraries with outside capability for internet?
That is correct, Councilman.
That's all it's being used for.
Yes, Councilman. These funds, yes, directly for that.
So, of course, I have concerns about it. I don't know how comfortable I would feel with, if I had 15, 16, 17-year-old children who, Daddy, can I take the car and drive down to Hereford High School and sit outside and do my homework? Because that's the only place where internet is available. I'm not sure how safe it is, or of course, I know nothing would go on that would be disapproved by anybody, but I do have a concern about this. But I guess in this age where we still have about 25,000 people without any availability of internet, I guess we have to go to these extreme. I don't think it's the most desirable solution. I'll put you that way.
Yes, Councilman. So as you're aware, the county has applied in partnership with Comcast for a very large state grant, and we are looking forward to getting word back on a possible award within the next week as we continue to build out broadband, especially above the Erdl in areas that are completely unserved or underserved. The county has had an initiative for several years, actually, to be able to propagate a available public Wi-Fi network at county facilities in an external basis at our rec and parks facilities, our public libraries, our community centers, and now also our schools. With the distribution of facilities that we have around the county in separated geolocations in northwest, south, and east, it is the most available way for us to bring public Wi-Fi to the residents who are currently unserved and underserved as long-term plans to build out and bring broadband service through carriers. As you know, takes a little bit more time. During the pandemic, there was a speed to effort in order to provide as much access as possible while facilities were closed and unable to house students.
I think when the school system initiated the STAT program, I feel as if they were obligated to make certain that every student who attended the public schools would have the ability to connect to the system. And what I mean by that is I think that if they're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on the STAT program, they needed to also spend money to connect every student. And of course, that wasn't done, and we're still trying to catch up. I mean, it's just so hard for me to understand in 2021 that we still have homes without internet available. And when did this start? In the 70s or
So, good, sir.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
When did it start?
So, I mean, obviously the broadband build out started for Baltimore County as we entered into under the Obama administration, the Broadband Technology Opportunity Program, and we started to build out our own infrastructure for middle mile. We have moved forward with developing a panel for digital equity here in Baltimore County with multiple agencies, including libraries, CCBC, aging, and centralizing efforts to address, to address accessibility and affordability. As you're aware, the county sponsored over 11,000 households to have internet services during the pandemic, and we continue to move forward with this sponsorship. And we have multiple efforts moving forward for areas of availability to build out broadband to the roughly 5,000 households that currently do not have any accessibility to broadband. So we're trying to attack this from an affordability and an accessibility angle, as well as an education angle, to make sure that not only do people have access to broadband in Baltimore County, but they know how to leverage it and use it wisely and safely.
Yeah, I just think the school system has an obligation to pay for this for students in our schools who have no access to internet. And I mean, I'm very happy that the county is helping, that the state with their programs are helping, that the federal government is helping. But ultimately, when it comes to the students that need this service, it should be the school system. They're the ones that decided to institute this STAT program. They're the ones that decided to give students homework that you need access to the internet. So anyhow, that's,
Yep.
I
And
preached
we are
long enough.
Yes, sir. And we are partnering with BCPS with this as well. As E-rate regulations have changed moving forward, and all sponsored internet service provided to students is now 100% E-rate refundable. So we are partnering with BCPS for each and every student for sponsorships as well, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any additional questions for Mr. O'Connor?
I do, Mr. Chair.
Yes, I believe Councilman Marks.
I suspect Councilman Crandall and I may have the same issue. But you know, all of us hear about the Wi-Fi difficulties that our teachers and students are having. And Rob, I guess my question is just what type of relationship do we have with BCPS? Are they informing us? Are they asking us for assistance? Any observations you could provide, I think I would appreciate.
Yes, sir. BCPS, I've been in constant contact with BCPS over recent ongoing issues. They have put a concerted effort into replacing, I'm just going to call it infrastructure, that was not capable of handling the high utilization when students returned into school, along with the hybrid of students doing remote learning at the same time. They piloted two different vendors, large vendors that we are both familiar with here in the county, and moved to a technology that we currently use here in the county. I had discussions with BCPS actually today. I'm happy to see that they're going to be leveraging the same type of technology that we utilize here in the county. That will give us some sort of a cross-training and reference between the two organizations to be able to assist further. I did have discussions today asking on how the functionality has been going in the recent weeks, and I will use my desk, which I'm not sure is actual wood, but for the last week, there has been no issues reported as they have moved to the new, I'm going to call it hardware at this point in time, until they finalize the selection. I'm not sure if that answers your question, sir.
No, it does, and that's that's quite frankly the best answer I've received in a long time. You know, I had the auditors look up the amount of money that we authorized for the school system, and it was, I think, around $74 million for IT. So I think there's going to be some questions about that at the budget, but I appreciate the work that you were doing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
yeah, I want to thank Lauren and the audit office for the study of the jobs in the school systems IT department and what qualifications people need for their particular jobs. Lauren, did everybody receive that report?
No, I had sent it to you, so it was, you have
I
it.
can't hear.
You have it. I had only sent it to you.
I think it might be worthwhile for the member, unless you think it's not a good idea. It's worthwhile, I think, for members of the council to see what the job requirements are, and also to see where the school system refused to say what the job qualifications are. Now, in the past, what the school system has done is they will transfer people like teachers to a particular job outside of the area of expertise, and that person ends up in IT and internal audit, things like that. Now, I do know for a fact when I was in the school system that some teachers who were not well thought, well, I shouldn't say that, teachers who were not received well by the staff of the school system ended up in IT, and they had absolutely no qualifications for the job at all. And I'm hoping that the Board of Education has stopped doing that and is hiring people for these jobs who are totally qualified for them.
Well, looks like we'll have plenty of time to talk about that when I guess when we have the schools in. Any additional questions or comments for?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes, go right ahead, Councilman Crandall.
Thank you, Chairman. I do agree with you, Mr. Chairman, that we that there will be time to sort of dig into these issues that we have with BCPS, both IT and otherwise. Councilman Marks was correct and rather prescient in in asking the same line of questioning that I wanted to talk to Rob about because of the bill before us. Rob, if you can just speak to as an IT professional, the recall that BCPS had to do on hotspot devices. I don't think BCPS is to blame for this. I think it's just a manufacturer's defect. So,
Correct.
Rob, if you can just let us give your professional opinion on that.
Yeah, I mean, well, sorry, I'm getting some feedback. The recall is obviously a manufacturer defect, and the schools were making sure that as they had to replace devices, it seems like they handled this correctly. That they made sure that they were not removing access from individuals without making sure that it was swapped with either a replacement part. Also, many of these hotspots were replaced with individuals that moved over to what we call the Internet Essentials sponsorship that we did. That was the Comcast. So these were households that could not afford connectivity, but they had connectivity available to them. So they were using hotspots prior. That was the first wave that was released when we went into the COVID pandemic. The schools first distributed hotspots. So there was a combination of several hotspots that were still in use, and as well as other technologies that students had moved away from the hotspots. So it didn't cause a widespread outage that was concerned. But yeah, unfortunately, yeah, things like this happen with manufacturers, and there are, whether it can be a firmware upgrade and replace it and fix it that way, that's something that's pushed out, or sometimes they need to be completely recalled.
Just a sign of the times, and just one more thing piling on BCPS right now that.
Yeah, I don't, yeah, I do seriously feel for them
Yeah,
in the
this-
sense of it has been a rough year.
Yeah, and this one wasn't,
No, it was not, sir.
was not deserved, right?
No.
Okay, well, thanks for the explanation, Rob. And I do, as Councilman Mark says, I do feel just a tad bit better that your staff is working more closely with BCPS. That's what I'm understanding.
Yes, we do have conversations and discussions around technology, and we are reaching out constantly. You know, we are two different organizations, but we both represent Baltimore County. So any services that we can help and assist with, whether it was during the ransomware issue or anything that's been ongoing, any type of efforts, we have been able to provide standing up call centers, providing loaner equipment early during the ransomware, anything that we can loan to keep them up and running, whether it is technical experience, again, equipment, or even just being able to have the conversations of path forward. But they've got some really good people, sir. And you know what? They've had a very long, hard year. And I know that there are a lot of employees on that IT team that have been putting in, an absorbent amount of time and effort into trying to get things back on track.
Well, thanks for your work, Rob, and for your staff's work on this.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Rob. Any additional questions or comments? Even though
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Rob is all worn out here. We beat this. Go right here, Councilman Patoka.
Thanks. Just briefly, I just want to thank Mr. O'Connor for helping me out with a constituent inquiry regarding the county's technological capabilities. So thank you for helping me on that one, Mr. O'Connor. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Okay, thank you, Rob. We certainly appreciate your expertise and all your hard work and dedication. Thank you very much. We'll move on now to page 5. Mr. Terry Hickey, Deputy Director of Housing and Community Development. We'll talk about Bill 30-21.
All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the council. Good to see everyone.
Good afternoon.
I am here first to talk again about Bill 3021. The administration is requesting 2 supplemental appropriations for federal funds. This represents the second cohort of federal entitlement funding for our CDBG and ESG COVID funds. To be specific, 7.4 million and a little over that in total. That translates out to about 3.4 million in CDBG funds and just under 4 million in ESG. And to give the council a quick understanding, and it's in the packet, these CDBG funds have been programmed to some degree so far. We're going to use these to continue a number of the efforts that started under the pandemic, like access to legal services for tenants at risk of losing their properties, their housing, other legal services, tenant counseling services. This particular funding can also be used down the road if we see more issues popping up with foreclosure related concerns. So we have some flexibilities in these funds. We're glad to have them. And then the ESG funding is really targeted towards homelessness prevention. We plan on doing more to expand our coordinated entry and be able to address deeper end housing issues that may come up as we continue to move through recovery following the pandemic. So again, we're asking for these 2 supplemental appropriations for CDBG and ESG cohorts 2, all COVID related funding. And thank you for hearing me on this.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the members? Hearing none, we'll go on to Bill 34-21, which is page 9.
Right. Mr. Chair, I think I'm back on again.
Yep.
All right. Well, again, good afternoon. Very happy to be here to speak on behalf of the administration for Bill 3421. This bill would establish a new Department of Housing and Community Development within county government, largely through the consolidation of the following units in other agencies of county government, including the Office of Housing, at HHS, the Division of Neighborhood Improvement, which used to be known as the Office of Community Conservation from the Department of Planning, the HUD-funded Housing Inspection Team that currently sits in PAI, and a handful of initiatives that I'm very proud that were launched during the pandemic: eviction prevention, tenant counseling, legal services, financial counseling, and others will all live under this new roof if the council agrees to move forward. There's a number of very important reasons, and I've had an opportunity to speak with many of you about these, but just to summarize, a number of very important reasons underlying the creation of this department. It recognizes the important need to centralize the management and oversight of housing and community development within county government. The structure will facilitate the execution of short-term responsibilities, which are many, and long-term strategic planning on a number of important issues. Having a unified DHCD is a standard practice. It would put us in line with other like jurisdictions around the state and in fact around the country. It's a best practice encouraged by HUD and also the State Department of Housing and Community Development. In light of not only the existing federal and state funds that we oversee and the tremendous amount of recent funding around COVID, it gives us an opportunity to both short and long term be more fiscally efficient. Putting all of these different grant funds in one place allows for better coordination, transparency, collaboration, and I think most importantly, accountability for how these funds are spent in line with county priorities. It allows the county to be much better prepared and coordinated around the voluntary consent agreement with HUD to allow us to meet those short and long-term goals. And something that I know is important to all of you, it provides a well-organized and responsive constituent service element around key issues like homelessness, homeownership, and housing stability. If we don't have the answers or the ability to address questions, we have the opportunity to establish collaborative relationships within county government to make sure that the issues facing constituents are dealt with and that they're connected and referred to the proper resources. As I've said publicly and to many of you, I've been emphasizing 4 main priorities for DHCD that all echo priorities of our county executive. They are keeping people in their homes. You're seeing the tremendous need evolving around COVID, but rental situations have existed prior to the pandemic and they will exist long after. We can address and wherever possible, prevent homelessness. I've heard from many of you and constituents around the county that we need more boots on the ground in relation to homelessness issues. We need to have better, more concentrated areas for complaints and concerns to be voiced and resources to be connected. I think you've all seen that in the short term. We want to see that institutionalized within this department. The creation of new housing through public-private strategies in response to the VCA, but also in response to the needs of the communities within the county. How do we ensure long-term smart investments in housing for a wide variety of individuals and families, including people experiencing disabilities that need access to accessible housing? And then finally, investing in our communities. Really taking a look at our federal, state, and even local funding to ensure that we're targeting priorities within communities, both large and small, that we're funding important community level programs like food banks, after school programs, and senior daycare, while also offering capacity building opportunities and uplifting the importance of community voice in community development. I think in the notes you'll see, and I understand this is doubling as a discussion of this new department budget, so I do want to mention that you'll see in the notes just over $867,000 in general fund costs related to this new department. Only $270,000 of that represent new expenses to the county budget. Those are all contained within less than 3 FTEs for new positions. That I'll run through them quickly, but these are all tied to essential county functions, the VCA, and other issues that really would exist with or without this new department. It's a deputy director of housing and community development, a person that we hope to find through a national search with extensive housing experience, particularly around strategies for leveraging funding and working to create smart housing opportunities. We have a management analyst 2 position that'll play a big role in both the VCA and any number of these other policy-related issues that I've mentioned so far. We have two positions that are both been hired in tandem with other departments, a project analyst that's being split with grant funds. This individual would provide a critical service by assisting with collection and analysis of data related not just to the VCA, but our housing stability initiatives and others. It's essential that the work we do is data-driven. We've never had somebody dedicated to this particular work, and we're happy to have somebody with that experience on board at BCStat. And then finally, and thanks, Mr. O'Connor, for your help in setting up and hiring for this position, an application administrator. A lot of what we do is tied to databases, collecting data, reporting out in a transparent, accountable way. We finally have a position that is appropriate for a high-level individual who can handle all of this work and make sure that we're not only in compliance, but able to bring this data forth in a way that we can make good strategic decisions. So again, the only new expenses under the general fund would be related to these positions. I feel comfortable that these are tied to essential housing and community development functions that supersede the creation of a new department, that are simply important for Baltimore County to do the work and do it well. Again, I want to thank all of you for the input that I've gotten from the council on this. We think this is an important move forward, and I'm very thankful for you hearing on this, and I'm sure there's some questions, so I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you very much. We certainly appreciate your presentation. Are there any questions or comments from the members? Okay, why don't we start with Stacey Rogers and then you, Councilman Marks.
Just a quick comment. Thank you, Terry, who has worked so diligently since arriving right before the pandemic. But there are two other points that I wanted to illuminate on as well. Number one, Baltimore County is the only jurisdiction of our comparable size that does not have a housing development standalone department. We did our benchmarking on that. The second part is in the summer of 2019, when I arrived, HUD, in our work with BCA compliance, expressed concerns to us about the bifurcation of the various services and were concerned about our ability to effectively deliver our services as well as be accountable to the provisions of the BCA. So in doing a assessment, HUD did an assessment. They had a private entity come in and do the assessment. As a part of their recommendations, this consolidation was also recommended by HUD as a more effective way for us to administer housing services and associated programming. So we are working very closely with HUD now on many aspects of the work that Terry oversees, and I think we've moved the needle a long way. So your support in considering the establishment and reconsolidation of some of these services is greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Councilman Marks.
Well, thank you very much. Mr. Hickey, you have been extremely responsive to me. And like with lightning speed, and that really means a lot. You've really shown yourself to be a problem solver, and I think you'll do a fine job heading this new department. So I'm just going to bring up two issues, and you know what they are because we've had lots of talk about them. The first is your thoughts on the need for support structures for those in affordable housing communities. One of the previous administrations that I served under designated an area for affordable housing, provided no recreation opportunities, no community services, and I have landlords for those properties begging me for help with these families during the summer. So your general philosophy about the need for support services, and then we'll get to the next one.
Sure. Well, you know from our conversations how supportive and excited I am about the concept of bringing more, particularly to children that are living in these areas. After talking with you and many others, I've seen a lot of shifting of some of our communities around the county that maybe were set up in a certain way, and now there's many, many more children and families in those areas. And so we've had some really exciting conversations with our dynamic head of recreation and parks and others about ways that we might be able to bring short-term resources on a targeted setting to some of these areas. We've already begun those conversations, and so you've got a very willing partner across the county in looking at what supports we can bring. And I would be remiss to not expand that to say, not just with children, there's a number of opportunities that have emerged over the last several years to provide more supportive services within voucher programs and housing in general. And I would say it's a fair statement that my team would back up that we were not always encouraged to go out and look for those resources. They're out there. Some of them are pretty flexible, and I think we're lucky to be with an administration and a county executive that encourage exactly that. So we'll be pursuing resources across the board that can be invested in these communities, and we look forward to working with all of you on doing that.
Okay, thank you very much. My second question, and you've already raised it, is the idea of enforcement. You know, what causes many of my constituents to become extraordinarily frustrated is when they do not see enforcement on bad actors. And, you know, we can provide tons of evidence and nothing changes. So please make that a priority for you. Enough said.
Very good. Understood. Thank you.
What I'll, as far as the reorganization, I understand what the administration is doing. I've often questioned why some programs are in certain departments. We bury the agricultural services under planning, I think, and we buried community development under planning, and I think it does make sense. And I think Councilman Patoka, you and I had a conversation about this a couple of months ago. It does make sense to bring these under one umbrella and for us to have one point of contact. So I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Agreed. Thanks, Councilman.
Councilman Quirk, and then you, Councilman Brandon.
Thank you, Chairman Jones. And I did want to also echo Councilman Marks's comments to a degree as well. This is just a very significant undertaking for sure. I mean, clearly there's a lot of issues here, I think, around the county, and so I'm glad that the administration is trying to tackle them head on. And I did really very much appreciate the conversation that I had with Terry Hickey, and it's a good, candid conversation. Clearly, the county has a lot of, let's just say, upside potential here, especially dealing with their homeless issues. And as Councilman Mark said, the enforcement actions would definitely be something I think we all could really benefit from for sure. And then also the homeless camps, it's going to, it's getting warmer out. I know we're seeing more homeless camps popping up in various places, and not only trying to move them along, but to try to help them at the same time. It's a constant kind of issue that we have around our district, I'm sure around the county. And, and also just our various people that just simply need help, that might be wandering down, say, a main road and perhaps just needing a direction and help. This is a very challenging area. I mean, I don't think we could get more challenging in the county than dealing with our homeless issues that we have, and also affordable housing. I mean, those are two areas I see just so much upside on. So I do wish Terry Hickey the best here. And Terry, I do look forward to calling you on your cell phone from time to time when we have these flare-ups. And I know all 7 council members know exactly what I mean. This is something that we hear about all the time. So I wish you the best of luck dealing with these significant issues. And I think tons of upside if done well. This could be a real significant progress. Hopefully we'll see over the next several years for sure. So thank you for stepping up too, and really kind of taking this battle on, because it's a fight very much worthwhile taking on. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Looking forward to it.
Councilman Crandall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm just going to add on to the Terry Hickey love here. Had a very good conversation with him, and there's no question that he is extremely knowledgeable in this field. And I too understand the really the necessity of bringing in these sort of disparate programs under one umbrella into a new department. I think it adds efficiency. It enables us to be enables Baltimore County to be more effective with just a variety of programs, and they're so numerous. I'm not even going to try to list them here. But Terry, you in our brief conversation, you certainly proved yourself as being a very capable person to take this on, and I think Baltimore County will benefit from your knowledge. And this isn't actually a new agency. This is a resurrection of an older agency. And Councilwoman Bevins, especially, I think, can appreciate the days of Mary Harvey, who's still beloved in the 7th District and probably throughout Baltimore County. So that's the positive stuff. Now, we talked about, Terry, you and I talked about the negative stuff, and I want to say for the record, since we are in a public forum here, that I am no fan of the settlement agreement with HUD. I think that we are being bullied by the feds. I think that it has caused policy decisions that Baltimore County probably didn't have to make. So it's an agreement that was signed by a previous county executive. The agreement never came before the council. All we're told is that we have to fund it because we made a 10-year, $30 million commitment to fund the marketing of affordable housing opportunities in Baltimore County. So I'm not a fan of it. I think it's a federal government overreach into a local jurisdiction. I think that we were singled out, and so it's difficult for me to get behind some of the policy decisions that have been made over the years. So one of the things we talked about, and I don't think I'm putting you on the spot, but I want to get it on record. Is Baltimore under the agreement or any other plans that Baltimore County has, especially with the advent of this new agency? Is Baltimore County going to get into the public housing business?
So by public housing, Councilman, I just want to make sure I'm clear with everybody listening that we're talking about public housing owned by the county as a PHA.
Right.
When the county's PHA was recognized by HUD back in '83, a very clear decision was made not to do that. I have been part of no conversations that would tell me that has changed in any way. And most importantly, I guess, for the cynics listening, this agency has no special power under this legislation to do anything like that. Those would be public conversations in a forum like this. So the answer to your question is a no. But I do also want to say the VCA is a legal document. However, at least the VCA at this stage where we are now gives the county some manifest destiny about how it reaches those goals. And I think we do have to be creative and collaborative in how we do that within the room we've been given, because we don't want alternatives to that. So I'll go back to my no and say that's where we are, but there's a lot of other things we do want to do on the positive side.
No, I agree. And I already knew the answer. That's why I asked it. And I knew I would put you on the spot so completely. So one thing more specifically, and it's something I contacted you about, and I'm not so sure that my constituent reached out to you yet. But I'm getting inquiries from landlords. What I'm not being paid. What can I do? Can you talk about what the programs are that are available and how they work, and and how a landlord that doesn't necessarily want to evict people, they're trying to help, how a landlord could help a tenant out that's in arrears because they're not working or whatever their circumstance may be.
Yeah, glad you asked that, Councilman. So right now, the county is still operating its what we call our eviction prevention program, EPP2, that's been running since back in October. We've never shut that down. We just keep layering in new funding as it becomes available. And in fact, we are just about to start layering in the $24.7 million that the council appropriated several weeks ago. We're still working off the CDBG funding we have now. We understand that landlords don't technically apply for this, but we're encouraging landlords to work with their tenants to ensure they do. We're also going to begin sending out more messages through the landlord registration email list through the county to start to give landlords more information about what's happening. I think a lot of the conversations around eviction sort of pit landlords versus tenants, but the reality is, like you said, lots of people are out there trying to make hard decisions on what they do. Thanks to some new agreements that we're negotiating now, the county will have partnerships to have lawyers at the courthouse that'll be looking to provide information and representation to tenants, but also to inform landlords that happen to be going to court on these matters that a much quicker way to resolve this would be to get the tenant into one of our eviction prevention programs and get the landlord paid off. I'm very proud, I think I mentioned this to you, but I'll say it for everyone else. Our partnership with the United Way, the STEP program, which was our bundled rental program, we were able to help over 930 families in larger apartment buildings around the county in just about 10 weeks. We pushed out about $4.2 million in wiping out debt across those platforms. We're renewing that soon in an agreement with the United Way, and we've lowered the thresholds. I'm not going to announce it now. We'll do protocols once it goes live, but we're going to expand the landlords who can apply for that STEP program. So they have two opportunities potentially to apply through STEP with the United Way, have all their tenants lined up in one bundled settlement, or they'll have the opportunity to encourage their tenant to apply directly. We are going to continue to monitor information from landlords. At some point in the future, we're looking at options for landlords to apply directly, and we're waiting for some more guidance from the federal government on how that might be able to happen. But we will continue to keep an eye on that, Councilman.
Well, Mr. Hickey, thank you so much. I expected a thorough answer, and that's what we got.
Okay, Councilwoman Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Hickey, I think everything that could be said in a positive way has already been said by my colleagues. So I want to say it's about time. I feel really good about the direction that this has taken, and we had a very long, probably too long of a conversation about this a couple of weeks back. So I just want to let you know that if there's anything that I can do to help you, please reach out to me.
Absolutely.
And I make a comment on Councilwoman Crandall. It's so funny you would talk about the public housing, because I have to tell you, the perception of most people is we already do that. You know, they say, oh, you're bringing Section 8 to Baltimore County. Oh, stop the Section 8 in my neighborhood. I think they already think that we do have public housing on some level. So thank you for explaining that, Mr. Hickey.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
And Councilwoman Bevins, if I can add, I think if you saw the answers provided to the auditor's question in advance of this meeting, you'll see that the Baltimore County is not issuing new vouchers. Is that correct, Mr. Hickey? Where the number of vouchers exist, and that's our inventory. Baltimore County just doesn't go out and just create new vouchers that can go it doesn't happen. So
we have a
maybe it's a good time to explain how that works, since we're in a public forum. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, it's a fungible set amount, and so I think part of the issue is that when you budget for vouchers, you know larger families will have a higher housing cost that we'll be helping with. So part of what the Office of Housing has to do is balance limited funds while still attempting to. I mean, we have to help people that have been on the wait list for a while. I will say though, the only exception to what you just said, Councilman, just to be clear, is that we are taking a much closer look at some of the specialty vouchers that are out there that are available for very specific purposes. We did just apply, and I'm very proud of these. We applied for a pilot in partnership with DSS to provide housing vouchers to youth aging out of foster care that would come with a deep supportive service element to them to help those young people take that next leap to independence. A number of bad outcomes happen to young people in that situation. And the other big area that we've looked to expand is in our intake of BASH vouchers. It's unforgivable, really, that we still have veterans that don't have stable permanent housing. And so we applied to a national program called Built for Zero. The county executive has been clear. He wants to see veteran housing eradicated, or veteran homelessness eradicated in the county. To do that, one of the strongest weapons are specialty vouchers for homeless vets. So there are some areas we'll be expanding in very unique ways. But generally, we're going to keep making through with what we have.
Okay, Councilman Procopa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Izzy, before you start,
Sure.
Mr. Hickey, just in case you're not aware, this council passed a bill a few years ago that allows for veterans-only housing as a special class. So that is a possibility in Baltimore County, thanks to my colleagues on the council.
Thank you.
Sorry, Councilman.
No worries. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks for that comment, Councilman Crandall. First, I want to share the sentiments of my colleague, Mr. Hickey. I think very highly of you. You've been incredibly responsive to me, and it seems that you have been responsive to all of us. And I think for a new department, that's particularly important that we have somebody at the helm that is responsive to this governing body. I think this is I want to applaud the administration because I think this is a very positive step for Baltimore County in moving towards being a 21st century county. We're still a growing county. The latest census data that just came up showed that we've grown by 2.7%, almost 3% from 2010 to 2020. And so we need to be prepared for that for future growth. And I think the 4 goals that you outlined, keeping people in their homes, preventing homelessness, new housing through public and private partnership, and investing in communities, community building, and giving the community a voice. These are all goals that are really laudable. And I think in many respects, this new Office of Department of Housing and Community Development to achieve these goals needs to work with other agencies and almost be a quarterback. Because when you're working on some of these issues for our older adults, you're the quarterback, and sorry to use the sports metaphor, but somebody on the team may be the Department of Aging or the Department of Recreation and Parks, because we're really talking about community development for all ages. And the enforcement role, well, certainly PAI has a role in that. And I think I don't have to mention every agency, but the point I'm making is I think you're well suited for that role. And I also think that it's really important that this new agency does look in the mirror and see that quarterback position as the functionality for the agency. No disrespect to the head coach, Stacy Rogers, or the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, Stacy Rogers. But I also just want to mention the Councilman Crandall, who brought up issues with the voluntary compliance agreement, that the county executive has taken a proactive step by forming an affordable housing work group. I'll be serving on that. We'll have our first meeting on March 4th. I think it's important for us to all engage in that work group and also learn from that work group. So just wanted to point out those things. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving me a few minutes to speak.
Thanks, Councilman.
Sure. So Mr. Hickey, we heard a lot of very nice comments about the reorg as well as yourself. And I must say, I guess I have one question. How come you don't return my calls?
Oh, you caught me off guard with that one, Councilman. I don't know that I hadn't, but I will make sure I do.
No, you certainly you've been okay with me. I'm just teasing. I just think I try to lighten it up. I mean, my God, yeah.
Well, you got me there.
You got to keep an eye on me, Mr. Hickey. I'll mix it up every now and then. So, any additional questions or comments?
Mr. Chair.
Uh-oh. Yes.
Uh-oh. Yes, I certainly appreciated your question, Mr. Chair. I like to see people squirming like Terry did. I just want to first echo Councilman Patoka. I don't believe I'm doing this, but because his comments regarding bringing parties together to help communities, I think it's so important to mention the police, to mention our school system, et cetera, because I think the three together can do wonders in turning communities around. And so he must have gotten that idea from me. I just, well, I think it's pretty obvious. But I wanted to bring up something that is a bit on the negative side that I was not very happy to get from some constituents. And that was something from a group called, what's it called? Super Patriots or something. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No.
Well, anyhow, I thought that in many ways it was a scare tactic. It criticized the formation of your department. It criticized the formation of the group that Councilman Patoka is going to be a member of, and it listed some areas in my district where Section 8 housing is going to go. And number one, well, in reality, it's almost impossible for this to happen. I mean, you are not going to put a Section 8 housing development in rural Baltimore County. I mean, you can't, the water's not there. It's just not going to happen. But I get upset when I see things going out that are simply scare tactics. I think that as a government in today's world, the last thing we need to do is to scare people. And I don't. Have you seen what I'm talking about?
Councilman, I haven't seen anything under that name. I've seen that language and I've seen that game plan. And I'll be very honest with you, that's what gets me up in the morning excited to do this work, because I recognize what we have to do to overcome some of these things. Several of your colleagues have talked about understanding how the system works. For example, there's no Section 8 development. We have vouchers that people can qualify to use, and we work with developers to do developments, and those two can interrelate. But we have so many good people out there. I am so fired up to tell those stories, get back to meeting face to face. And before you told me this, Councilman, I was about to tell you, I've never worked in a more collaborative environment. The county executives team, the way they've embraced me, the way they want to work together, the members of the council, the public. So I hear things like this, I just get more excited to do my job.
Yeah, and I think the publication just was political in nature. I sent out a 2-page answer to it, in essence, which explained that, don't worry, this is not realistic. It's just not true. You don't understand the setup. But I do want to mention that in my district, there is an affordable housing community that has just opened recently. And over the last year, I worked with the developer and with the two communities that are adjacent to this development. And this is going to turn out quite well. I know that because there's a lot of work that's going on. Everyone is going to benefit from it. And so I'm very happy and just waiting to see the end results of these efforts. And, if government's going to do something scary, I mean, I certainly would like people to know that, but let's not invent scenarios that are scary.
Agreed.
So anyhow, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Okay, thank you very much. I thank you for your time, Mr. Hickey. I think everybody's very pleased and happy and looking forward to all the work we're going to do in the future as it relates to providing affordable housing for people here in Baltimore County. On that note, we're going to move this train into high gear because right now we have a hearing at 6 o'clock, public hearing. And right now we've done 3 items on the list of 17. So I'm going to ask everybody to indulge us. If you have a question, for God's sake, go ahead and ask it. But if it's a comment about something else, I would just ask you to just help us get through this by keep that or call the person offline or whatever, because we're really on like item number 3 and we have 17 to go and we took an hour to do this. So on that note, we're going to move on real fast with page 36, Rob O'Connor on a contract concerning National Center for Safety Initiative.
I believe that's not my contract, criminal background check investigation.
Okay. It's same difference. That's what I have.
Okay. Oh, okay. National Center for, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so I'd like to, thank you, Chairman. I'd like to preface this contract request with the reason that we are back here requesting this contract for online background investigation. We took the advice from members of this council and direction from the county administrator, and the county had moved forward with procuring equipment and setting up processes to begin doing in-house background checking for volunteers that work here in the county. We were completed all applications with the Department of Public Safety and Corrections, and we were about to send employees here in the county to training in February of 2020 is when we started to schedule the training. And as everyone knows, COVID came into our lives in March of 2020, and the Department of Public Safety shut down all training and has still ceased all training to this point in time. So in the meantime, the administration is requesting approval of a contract with Sports Engine Incorporated, also known as National Center for Safety Initiatives, to provide background check services on potential volunteers for the Department of Recreation and Parks various youth programs. The contract commenced February 1st, 2021, will continue through June 30th, 2021, and may not exceed $25,000 unless approved by the council. If approved, the contract will continue through January 31st, 2025, with the option to extend agreement an additional 120 days. Compensation may not exceed $600,000 for the entire 4-month term, including extension. At this point in time, through recommendations of the Department of Recreation and Parks, we are procuring and encumbering funds for 5,600 background checks, which the Department of Rec and Parks estimates will get us through the end of this calendar year. It is the intention of the county to move forward prior to the end of this calendar year to bring in-house background checks here to the county. We are reaching out continuously to the Department of Corrections, Department of Public Safety and Correction Services, and the county administrator herself has made several requests to that agency as well, that as soon as training is made available, that Baltimore County is allowed to be in some of the first classes so we can move forward. This is, again, a precaution to make sure that we are still continuing background checks for all volunteers that will be working with the Department of Recreation and Parks throughout our summer program and possibly into our fall programs.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. Councilwoman Bevins?
I just want to say, I'm very grateful that this is finally moving forward. And I think it would have probably been done already if it hadn't been for COVID. So I'd like to thank the administration for seeing it through. And Rob, thank you so much doing the application process. Did you say 5,600? That should probably.
Yes, ma'am. That was the estimate that came from the Department of Recreation and Parks. And ma'am, I really wish we weren't sitting here doing this again. Yeah, we were under full intentions that starting last March, we were going to begin our spring sports doing internal background checks.
I know,
So.
I know. I know some things can't be helped. So I'm glad that the train is back on the tracks and full speed ahead. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Councilwoman Bevins, for your leadership and making this happen many, many years ago. So we certainly appreciate it. I was going to call on you whether you wanted to or not, because this is you gave birth to this. So we certainly appreciate your leadership. Yes,
Thank you.
Ms. Rogers.
And Councilwoman Bevins, what we wanted to let you know is that how it's going to sequence, we're sequencing it. Once we get our staff certified, as individuals come up on their anniversary date, when we hit the anniversary date, before they hit their anniversary date, we move them over sequentially into the fingerprinting background check. So that way, no one is out of cycle. We have our volunteer coordinator on board in Rec and Parks, and we monitor that 1 year date. We asked as a precaution, try to take this through December and how many people we would need to move forward with until we get our staff trained. They have to be certified to do the fingerprinting. And that's why we're rolling it out. Those who would come up for their next year of the online, that's how we do it.
Very good. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none. Thank you very, very much, Mr. O'Connor. Thank you for hanging in there. Now I'll move right along to page 57, and we will go with the appointments. Well, let's go to page 57, resolution 47-21, Mr. Bacoka.
Yeah, so are we moving to the PUD, Mr. Chair?
Yes, we're gonna do the PUD, and let's do the PUD. No. I tell you what. Let's do the appointments first, and then we'll come back to the PUD, and then we'll get back in order. We'll start with Mr. Burke's appointment to the Baltimore County Board of Appeals, Mr. Fred Lauer. Mr. Secretary, you have anything to add on this?
No, Mr. Chairman. Other than we collaborated with Mr. Quirk on this, and I'll let Mr. Quirk take it away. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I did want to recognize and thank both Tom and Adam for their work on this. They were very gracious to help interview different candidates and spend a fair amount of time with Mr. Lauer. And with their recommendation, I also did a joint call. I found him to be very knowledgeable, a lot of experience. I think he's going to be a great appointment. Mr. Bostwick, is he on the work session today, or?
Mr. Lauer is on. Yes.
And I didn't know if the chairman wanted him to speak, but he has my full confidence.
He's muted, I believe.
Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, we can now. Yes, Mr. Lauer, go ahead.
It's Fred Lauer here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, sir.
You can hear me okay? Yeah.
Yes.
Good, thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and council members. I thank you for taking the time here. I'll be brief. Presumably you have my resume. I'd like to thank Councilman Quirk for the nomination. I have been teaching at Towson for about 16 years, part-time and full-time. I teach law, basic law course and real estate law. Been in private practice for 30 years. My own practice, I've represented a number of clients, large developers, smaller developers, community groups, nonprofits, individuals. I've appeared before zoning boards throughout the metropolitan area, and been in the courts, the circuit court, the Court of Special Appeals and the Court of Appeals, and argued cases, including zoning cases, many zoning cases over that period of time. That's a brief summary. I know your agenda is filled, as you've said, and I appreciate this opportunity to serve. I've moved back into the Catonsville area about a year ago, and would like to be part of the community, and hopefully my skills and expertise will come in handy at the Board of Appeals.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
can I just ask Mr. Lauer, is that the same Fred Lauer that used to play second base for the Department of Finance?
Yes, your fellow council members may like this because it's the same Fred Lauer that took you out at second base one time, and you were mad at me for quite a bit of period, I think.
Well, that's why I hadn't seen you in so long. I thought you were in the witness protection program. No, but it's good to see you, Fred. You look great. And I think you'll be a great member of the Board of Appeals. Great choice, Councilman Quirk.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman. Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, thank you as well, Councilman Patoka. And again, thanks to Mr. Lauer. It's great to have really knowledgeable, really experienced people sit on the Board of Appeals. We need it. And I just appreciate your public service, Mr. Lauer, and appreciate you stepping up to help the community. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you, Councilman Quirk, and thank you, Mr. Lauer. And now I will move right along to my appointment to the Baltimore County Board of Appeals, Ms. Sharon Bernardi. Ms. Bernardi?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
Good afternoon. Welcome aboard. We certainly appreciate you taking on this task to participate on the County Board of Appeals. Certainly a very important position. I appreciate you and Mr. Lauer taking it on. And would you like to say a few words?
Thank you. I want to thank you and members of the council for providing me this opportunity. I know that your agenda, you would like to get back to that. So I'll just be brief with my remarks. And in support of this nomination, I want to share that I'm a proud resident of Woodstock, Maryland, where I've resided for over 20 years with my husband and son. I've been a proud resident of Baltimore County for nearly 30 years professionally, and I'm sure you have my resume there, but just to give you a brief overview, I'm a 1992 graduate of the University of Maryland Law School, also a graduate of Johns Hopkins Carey School of Business, where I received my master's in business administration. I started my legal career with the state of Maryland's Department of Labor Licensing and Regulation in 1993. I then transferred to the Office of the Comptroller in 1997, where I served as a hearings officer before joining the Maryland's Office of Administrative Hearings as an administrative law judge. I then returned to the Office of the Comptroller, served as manager of hearings and appeals, and advanced into various leadership roles, including director of the Compliance Division, prior to my appointment as Chief Deputy Comptroller of Maryland in 2015. I serve on several professional boards, including State Employees Credit Union of Maryland, past president of our National Tax Organization of Regional Tax Associations. I'm also on the state's Revenue Monitoring Committee, the State Sundry Claims Board, and the MACPA Foundation. I'm active in numerous civic organizations that serve the county and would be honored to offer my expertise and service to Baltimore County if appointed to the board. So I want to thank you for your time and consideration.
Well, we certainly appreciate you, and we are very fortunate and very lucky to have you as well as Mr. Lauer. Both of you have some extensive background and extensive experience, and we're just very happy to have you. Any additional questions or comments?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead, Councilman.
Okay.
Yeah.
I certainly want to thank you for agreeing to take on this responsibility. I mean, you already have tremendous responsibilities in your current job. So now I guess you can double up. But my question is, have you cleared this through all the legal channels in the state to make sure that you can serve on the Board of Appeals?
Yes, Mr. Councilman, I actually submitted a request to the State Ethics Commission and received a response back giving me that clearance.
Good.
Definitely want to make sure there were no conflicts. Thank you so much.
Just trying to protect you.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments? All right, thank you so much, Mr. Lauer and Ms. Bernardi. We appreciate you very much, and thank you for hanging in there with us. And on this note, I'll move right along with reappointment to the Baltimore County Animal Hearing Board. Neil Piggott. Neil, we certainly appreciate your service to the county and happy to know that you're being reappointed. Do you have any comments?
Now, I've served for approximately 4 years. I like it. If I'm reappointed, I'll gladly serve 4 more or whatever.
All right. Well, we thank you also for your very important work. I mean, the county really need people to serve on these boards to help us, chart a course that is best for the citizens of Baltimore County. So I appreciate all of you. And on that note, Councilman DeCoke, I said I was coming back to you, but not now. We're going to go back to page 9. No. Go back to page 12, and we'll call on Ms. Renee Coleman, Classification and Compensation Office for Bill 3121.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Bill 3121 implements a change to the classification and compensation plan as recommended by the PSAB board and approved by the county executive. So on Exhibit A, it simplifies the class titles in Section 2 of the plan. In many cases, the change eliminates the 40 hours, the options, or the 84-hour biweekly information on the title, and only 2 class titles were fully changed, which were from Fire Director to Bureau Chief and Division Fire Chief to Deputy Chief. The Office of Budget and Finance advised that there are no fiscal impacts as well.
Okay, thank you very much. We always like nice titles in the fire department. Division to Deputy, sounds good to me.
Yes, sir.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none. Okay, we'll move right along to, let's go to page 33. Director Rollins, Bill 3721.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Council Chair, members of the council. The administration is requesting a supplemental appropriation of federal funds totaling $405,880 from the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021, Supplemental Nutrition Title III to the Grants Fund. This money is used to cover the cost of special food boxes that we've been distributing to older adults. Originally, this project was funded out of CARES, but once we were notified of this additional federal funding, we will now be paying for meals that were distributed earlier in the year.
Okay. Thank you very much, Director Rowley. Are there any questions, comments from the members? Feeding our seniors is most important. So we certainly appreciate all your hard work and dedication. We'll move on to page 40. Ms. Gail Watts, Director of the Department of Corrections.
Good afternoon, Chairman Jones and members of the council. The administration is requesting approval of a contract with Woodlawn Motor Coach to provide bus service for detention center staff who will park their personal vehicles off-site at the Towson Square Garage located at 505 Virginia Avenue in Towson, while the detention center parking garage is undergoing maintenance and repairs. The contract commenced April 26 of 2020 and may not exceed $25,000 unless approved by the council. If approved, the contract will continue through September the 3rd of 2020, and the cost per day is $2,520. Estimated compensation for the entire approximate 4-month term totals $330,000.
Fantastic. Are there any questions or comments? Ms. Watts, we certainly appreciate you and all the hardworking men and women of the Department of Corrections and everything they do to keep us safe. So we appreciate it very much. We know you've been through some trying times last year. So on that note, we will move on to page 60. Colonel Andre Davis.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and council members. The police department is requesting the council's approval for a conditional gift of 2 vehicles from the Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company. These 2 vehicles are a 2015 Jeep Cherokee Laredo, valued at $17,463, and a 2017 Honda Accord, valued at $14,438. These vehicles will replace 2 other vehicles that have been removed from the department's fleet. The donated vehicles will be used exclusively by our Regional Auto Theft Task Force unit for the purpose of combating auto theft in the Baltimore region. It would also be used for insurance fraud and other related insurance crimes. The vehicles will be used in street level and investigative operations involving auto thefts. The additional benefits to Baltimore County is that all costs to maintain and repair the vehicles will be paid for by the Maryland Vehicle Theft Prevention Grant. There are no special conditions or expectations in exchange for this donation, with the exception of producing a quarterly report for Nationwide. While the title will pass to Baltimore County, there are no matching funds nor costs incurred by the county other than maintaining insurance coverage. With that being said, I would like to thank the council members in advance for considering this approval of the Nationwide donation, and it will significantly benefit the citizens of Baltimore County and the department.
No, Colonel Davis, as we like to say here in the council, we'll take it. Is it true that most of these cars are stolen because people are leaving them unlocked? Or
that is true. That is true. And when you think about the modern technology with key fobs left in the car, that's happening quite a bit. And we have been going on a push campaign to just talk to the communities about not doing that.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from the members? Thank you very much, Colonel Davis.
Thank you all.
And next we'll move on to page 54. It's Amy Grassi from Real Estate Compliance.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. The administration is seeking approval of a contract to acquire 24.5 acres of land from Villa Maria. This is the campus of the Stella Maris Nursing Home, if anyone's familiar, on Delaney Valley Road, just north of Timonium Road on the west side. The 24 acres is currently improved with a baseball diamond that is highly used by the Lutherville Rec Council and is also given to other rec councils in the community for use. This area was proposed for a major subdivision. This acquisition will prevent that from occurring and will keep it in our recreational use for our citizens. The land is being purchased with program open space funds. There were 2 appraisals done consistent with program open space requirements, and they came in at 2 million and 2.4 million. The acquisition price is 2.2 million. The average of those 2 appraisals consistent with program open space requirements. If you have any questions, just let me know.
Okay, are there any questions or comments from any of the members? Okay. Let's move on to Ms. Deb Schindel, Property Management, page 43.
Good evening, Councilman Chair and members. Thank you for this opportunity. I have 3 fiscal notes to bring the day for you. The first one is the administration is requesting 2 contracts with one with Classic Lawn and Landscaping, who is the primary, and then Mid-Atlantic Group, a secondary contractor, to provide ongoing maintenance and repair to natural turfs throughout here in Baltimore County and our operational sites. There will be, this is a 1 year with 4-year extensions on the contract. It was competitively bid. The compensation for both contractors combined may not exceed the $2,057,828 for the entire year of the contract, or the length of the contract. So just for general knowledge, property management advises that there is approximately 136 fields throughout Baltimore County that are natural turf, and we actually provide seeding, installing sod, fertilizing, mulching, and numerous things for athletics and diamonds in the throughout Baltimore County. Is there any questions on this contract?
Nope. Move right on to page 47.
Awesome. Thank you. The second contract.
Go right ahead, Ms. Schindel.
Yes, I'm sorry, my computer was going
sorry.
That's okay. The administration is requesting an approval for a contract with KNC Grounds Maintenance Incorporated to provide irrigation maintenance, system maintenance and repairs to various county sites. The contract was competitively bid. There were 3 bidders on that. We have chosen 2 out of the 3. The compensation may not exceed $332,925 for the entire life of the contract. It is 1-year contract with 1-year renewals. It actually, this contract is really to furnish labor, materials, tools, equipments, and various things to provide the monthly service and the maintenance and repairs to 22 of our county-owned irrigation sites. One of the questions that the auditors did ask was that there was a 3rd vendor, and that why did we choose not to award to all 3 vendors? Basically looking at the history of the amount of work that is given out in the last years, it wasn't a large contract, and therefore the 3rd proposal was double the cost of the first 2, and we just did not feel that we would have enough work to support a 3rd vendor. So hopefully that answers some questions. Definitely don't want to put a vendor in a situation where they get no work. So are there any questions on this irrigation?
Hearing none, move right on to page 50.
You got it. No problem. So the last one that I'd like to bring to your attention is the administration is requesting approval for a contract with Johnson Control Incorporated to provide preventive maintenance service for our direct digital control HVAC system at 15 county-owned and operated facilities. This again is a software program that is attached to our HVAC system, and it is a 902F because it is a software system. We actually have 1 year with 4 1-year renewals, and the compensation for the entire contract cannot exceed $450,000, excuse me, 405,485 for this contract. There any questions about digital controls? We also listed in the contract what software programs that this attaches to. And again, this is to our HVAC that allows us remote access to look at our HVAC systems, determine what the temperatures are in each room, if they're operating properly, and then we can make some repairs right there rather than sending a technician out to the building.
Okay, are there any questions or comments from any of the members? Ms. Milkinson, are you okay?
Actually, the question was that we posed was related to fiscal matter 3 on the turf field because there were 5 responsive bidders. Just to clarify, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. We thought it was to the irrigation. I will have to look at that for you, Lauren. Again, I think that just taking into consideration the fact that we are going to use our contractors on a competitive bid process against each other. However, we still want to be very mindful of not giving so many contracts out there that a contractor, that there is a contractor that never actually receives any work. So we try to balance the amount of work we give with the amount of vendors that we award to.
In this case, the arrangements are primary, secondary. So in that case, won't most of the work be going to the primary contractor?
So this was, yes, that is the case, unless a contractor cannot complete the task, which quite often happens. So it depends. We go from year to year on how much work we're going to be getting. In some cases, we don't use this contract very much. In the last couple of years, we have used it and used our secondary. So we just you know, tried to balance that out.
I guess the issue is it doesn't cost anything to put them on the list, right? Other than letting them know that we will only get to you if the other 2 cannot perform.
Yeah, but one of the concerns that we also hear from contractors is that we have to be careful when we do primes and secondaries and have multiple vendors, because when you're a business person with a contract with the county and you never receive any work, it still goes against your bonding. And so therefore it prevents them from not in the inability to be able to get work from other outside companies. And so therefore we kind of do a disservice to the companies where they are not getting any work from Baltimore County, but yet they can't get any work because of the bonding requirement. So we try to balance that we're not, if we secure 5 vendors, but only 2 get work and 3 get none, that also limits their income on ability to make work for other municipalities and companies.
Okay, Ms. Rogers?
Just to be clear, the county retains the ability to determine if the prime can or cannot do the work, because this was presented to us, and it is our goal is to balance out the work so we don't end up with a situation that Ms. Schindel indicated where we're awarded, but that person never gets any work. So we are working diligently to ensure that issue does not happen.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none, I guess we'll move right on to page 62. Ms. DeAndrea Walker.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the council. The administration requests approval for Resolution 5621, which authorizes the county to file a grant application with the Maryland Department of Transportation, MTA specifically, to request FY22 funding for the Rural Public Transportation Program, as well as the statewide Special Transportation Assistance Program. The funds will be used to provide on-demand handicap accessible transportation to county residents ages 60 and older and adults with disabilities age 18 and older. This resolution, okay.
Go right ahead. Go right ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry. This resolution provides the required assurances under the grant application process that the county will comply with the conditions of the grant.
Now I say okay.
Okay.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, fantastic. We'll move right on to page 29. Ms. Walker, Bill 3321.
All right, the administration requests approval for Bill 3321, which would change the name of the Baltimore County Department of Public Works to the Department of Public Works and Transportation. Beyond renaming the department, the bill instructs the publishers of Baltimore County Code and zoning regulations to update applicable sections and instructs the Charter Review Commission to draft amendments in conformance with the bill during its decentral review. Updating the department's name will reflect the expanded nature of our scope of work within the last 2 years and would allow public services offered within the department to be easily located, as multiple bureaus within the department already encompasses many transportation-related services. DPW, as you know, recently assumed responsibility for the County Ride Division, which primarily provides transportation, again, for our county residents 60 years and older, and our residents with disabilities over age 18. Additionally, the department has overseen the development of the Towson Circulator program, and with these programs in mind, as well as our existing transportation relation functions, this renaming would more accurately describe the services that we provide to county residents.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. On this note, I'll call on Councilman Marks, our transportation chair. Any comments, Councilman Marks?
Fully supportive, and I'll save my comments for the meeting.
Thank you so very, very much, sir. Now we move on to page 30. Merritt and Steve Laffer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the council. The administration requests approval of Bill 35-21, which is in addition to the Baltimore County landmarks list. And with your permission, I'd like Caitlin Merritt, our Chief of Preservation Services, to address the specifics.
Thank you. Article 32, Title 7 of the Baltimore County Code establishes the Landmarks Preservation Commission and sets forth the procedures and the criteria for the creation of historic districts and the designation of historic structures and their settings on the Baltimore County Landmarks list. The final landmarks list currently includes 398 properties. The Landmarks Preservation Commission recommended a new structure and setting for addition to the preliminary landmarks list. The county executive reviewed the recommendation or the recommended addition, and the recommendation was sent to the county council. Thereafter, the Department of Planning notified the property owners of the required public hearing, which the council held on March 1st, 2021. Bill 3521 proposes to amend the final landmarks list by adding the Christ Evangelical Lutheran Church, excluding the 1960s concrete block addition and setting located at 16530 Trenton Church Road in Upper Co. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I do not have any questions. Ms. Merritt, I would like to talk to you offline a little later after we finish this work session.
Sure.
Any additional questions or comments from the members?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. And we will now move on to page 18, Ms. DeAndrea Walker.
Good afternoon again. The administration requests approval of the 2021 Basic Services Map. Article 4A of the Baltimore County Zoning Regulation sets out the provisions for growth management in Baltimore County. The growth management provisions are designed to facilitate implementation of the master plan with specific regard to quality and timing of new growth and development. The basic services maps are designed to aid the county in providing public services, water, sewer, and transportation in an amount that facilitates the level of growth allowed by the current zoning. Article 4A also requires that the 3 basic services maps for water, sewer, and transportation be prepared annually by DPW, and thereafter the planning board must recommend the county council any proposed annual revisions to the maps, which they did at their March 4th meeting. They voted for it, and then the council is also required to hold 1 public hearing prior to the adoption of the map, which we held earlier today. Bill 3221 will repeal the 2020 Basic Services Map and enact the 2021 Basic Services Map. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from the members? One second. Okay, hearing none, we will move on to page 59.
Mr. Jones, if I may, the only thing I would add is we don't have any speakers for the bill as we found out at the hearing, we didn't have any speakers at the hearing either for the basic services. Just wanted to let the members know.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Now we'll move on to page 59, Resolution 54-21. Mr. Merrill. You're muted, sir. You're muted, sir. You're muted. We cannot hear you. Mr. Merrill?
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. Good evening, Chairman Jones and members of the council. The administration is seeking the approval of Resolution 54-21, which seeks the approval of the continuation of the local state of emergency initially declared by the county executive on March 13th, 2020. That is Executive Order number 2020-002, and that order was issued in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. On March 13th, 2020, the county executive declared a state of emergency and catastrophic health emergency in Baltimore County due to the COVID-19 pandemic. On March 16th, this body, the county council, authorized the continuation of the state of emergency with the approval of Resolution 37-20. The council had subsequently authorized the continuation of the state of emergency, most recently with the approval of Resolution 35-21, which is set to expire on which is already expired, actually April 5th, 2021. Resolution 54-21 declares that it is likely that the state of emergency will continue beyond May 5th, 2021, and authorizes the continuation of the state of emergency for an additional 35 days beyond May 5th, which means that it would end on June 9th, 2021, or when the county executive declares an end to the local state of emergency, whichever occurs first. I would note that Governor Larry Hogan declared a general state of emergency and catastrophic health emergency on March 5th, 2020, and has continued that state of emergency as recently as April 16th, 2021. So that state of emergency still exists to this day. And lastly, I would note that Resolution 54-21 would take effect on the date of its passage by the county council in accordance with the authority granted in 3 1-503 of the Baltimore County Code, as well as 14-111 of the public safety article in the Maryland Annotated Code. That's all I have, and unless there's any questions.
Any questions or comments from the members? Hearing none, we'll move right along to page 32, Bill 36-21. Councilman Sketch?
Yes, before I go into the resolution, do I understand, Mr. Marr, from what you said, that we are not in a state of the county executive's executive authority has terminated now?
No.
No. Okay, that's all. Okay. I was listening to you and I thought that's what you said. Okay. Yeah, the resolution in front of you would simply extend the PUD for Loveton Industrial Park. And right now the developers are having problems securing a vendor who would run an assisted living facility on the property, and they're having a problem simply because the assisted living facilities are so engaged in fighting the COVID pandemic in the various facilities. This is their prime concern right now, and so the efforts to get a vendor have been delayed. And this resolution would extend the PUD through the end of the emergency period, 120 days after the emergency period terminates.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Katz, Councilman Katz. Let me back up a little bit. Understand in my, we have a speaker or two for the extension of the state of emergency.
We
Is that
do,
correct?
we do, Mr. Chairman. I should have interjected before we went to the next item. Mr. Castro, I think we do have one speaker, correct?
Yes, that is correct. Mr. Bill Adams. So let me get him on here.
Okay.
And then we do have one speaker on Mr. Katz's bill as well.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Adams.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you. I had to send in a question real quick. I've been patiently waiting for an hour and 45 minutes, so I'll be brief, but I'm not going to be too quick. I've called in about the emergency order before. I understand the reasons for the emergency order, and I understand it offers some benefits. The part I'm absolutely against is the unscientific and unsupportable restrictions that our county executive and health department put in. I personally tried to contact the county executive and the health department. I get zero reply. I even filed a public information request to get the data that the health department and county executive used to ban youth sports in the fall. I filed that in the middle of November. I have no data. I have no reports. I have nothing from the health department or the county executive to show why youth sports was banned for increasing COVID. I use that as one example of the ridiculousness of these restrictions. They make absolutely no sense. The information that came out today from the president even confirms it. Now they're saying you don't have to even wear a mask outside, which is common sense. Yet we still have restrictions in place where you cannot dine outside, where only one parent can attend a sporting event. It just, it makes absolutely no sense. I want the restrictions gone. I want the county council to also know that the teachers union and Baltimore County Public Schools agreed to not go back to school 5 days a week as long as there's an emergency order in place. So if you continue this emergency order, you're voting against our kids going back to school, which is just criminal in my opinion. My kids have been to school 5 days in 14 months. So I turn this back to the county executive and county council. And if you need to back any of this up, talk to Mr. Benjamin. I've talked to him 1,000 times. What is the end game? When will the restrictions end? Like, what are we waiting for? When will personal choice outweigh the unscientific restrictions? Why do they continue with no data to support them and no one will answer any questions about them? So for that reason, I ask you to vote against extending the emergency order. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We certainly appreciate your comments. And any additional questions or comments? Any additional speakers, Mr. Secretary?
Now on resolution 5421, we do have one speaker now on Mr. Katch's bill, bill 3621, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we'll hear from that speaker now. You are done, correct, Mr. Katch, Councilman Katch?
Yes.
We'll hear from that speaker now.
Our speaker is Patricia Malone, who I'll get her on. Ms. Malone?
Good evening, Chairman Jones and member of the council. I am here to speak in support of Bill 3621, and I first want to thank Councilman Katch for introducing this bill. He gave a very good summary of what the purpose of the bill is for. We do have resolution 15120 that the council may remember from last December. That was for Spark Senior Care. The applicant is the property owner, not an assisted living facility operator or developer themselves. So they've been trying to partner with an assisted living facility operator and have been unable to do that for various reasons regarding COVID with travel restrictions. And they've even said that some of the providers are now reevaluating interior layouts for assisted living facilities. So this bill would give an additional 180 days to file the concept plan following the expiration of the state of emergency. And so it's not actually tied to your passage of the state of emergency. It would just give us 180 days from whenever the state of emergency ends. So thank you for your time tonight. And I ask for your support of this bill. I'm sorry, yes, this bill.
Thank you, Ms. Malone. Okay, any additional questions or comments? Any additional speakers? Hearing none on the speakers, we will move on to page 57, Councilmember Token, resolution 47-21.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Resolution 4721 is a planned unit development at the Woodhome Country Club, more specifically at the corner of Woodhome Avenue and Reisterstown Road. It's a very limited development, 2-acre parcel to be used specifically for a bank. And I know we have we're late into this meeting, so I'll hold my comments there, but I do want to thank all of those who have waited patiently to provide testimony and thank them in advance.
Thank you very much, Councilman Batoka. I understand we have some speakers.
We do, Mr. Chairman. I think we have 4 speakers. Ms. Belcastro.
Yes, we have 4 speakers. Our first speaker is Shelley Morhaime. And let me find her.
All right.
Ms. Morhaime?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, you may begin your testimony.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. My name is Shelley Morhaime, and I speak today as president of 1,000 Friends of Pikesville, which is a nonprofit community organization whose mission is the revitalization of Pikesville and the redevelopment of the historic Pikesville Armory as a center for cultural arts, recreation, and community engagement. I speak in support of the county's consideration of the planned unit development proposed at the corner of Reisterstown Road and Woodhome Avenue on land owned by Woodhome Country Club. We believe a bank building on this 2-acre tract will be compatible with current commercial development, and our understanding is that there's nothing else planned for this 2-acre site. Our board of directors approved the county's consideration of this development at our meeting last week on April 19th. We had some issues initially, but we discussed them with Councilman Patoka, and he has resolved them for us, or is working to resolve them. The first issue was with the 27 parking spaces proposed for the site. While there is an environmental cost to all development of open land, we believe that this can be mitigated to a great extent by using pervious surface paving to reduce runoff and to plant or preserve trees wherever possible. The other issue was the concern that the driveway into the bank is a very short distance from Reisterstown Road, creating a potential traffic safety issue. It's proposed to be as far from Reisterstown Road as possible on this 2-acre tract. And we're satisfied that this concern is a concern that will be dealt with during the county's administrative review processes. So we thank Councilman Patoka for working with us on the development of this site and for providing for Pikesville a substantial community benefit in terms of support for public recreation improvements. Joining me here today virtually to show their concurrence with our position are Howard Needle, our President Emeritus, and Dean Rendell, member of our board and chair of the committee that studied this proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Moorheim. Go ahead, Councilman Patoka.
And also, I have to always pay respect to the president of my own community association, Dean Rundell. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, and thank you, Ms. Moorheim. We certainly appreciate all your hard work and dedication to the community, as well as I'll give a shout out to your husband for his many years of service to the citizens of Maryland, as well as Baltimore County. Next speaker.
Our next speaker is Alan Zuckerberg. Mr. Zuckerberg?
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes.
Good, thank you. Good afternoon or evening, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Patoka, and members of the council. I am Alan Zuckerberg. I'm the president of the Pikesville Communities Corporation. We represent 15 homeowner associations in the Pikesville area, and they represent totally over 2,300 households. Earlier this morning, I submitted a full statement with attachments to the council. We believe that 4721 is not ripe at this time. It does not define locations for which the money is to be used or the specific types of facilities. The planning director's memo states on page 2, the proposed capital improvement benefit should be presented with specific locations or monetary contributions to determine whether it meets the objectives of a PUD benefit. This is absent from 4721. The post-submission meeting omitted notice to and inclusion of PCC, our group, although the planning director advised that we were among the parties to be notified. Yet page 2 of 4721 notes, applicant has conducted a post-submission community meeting in compliance. We don't believe that's the case. 4721 omits any date of finality by when the work should be performed and a use and occupancy permit be issued. The term greater Pikesville area is not defined. Page 3 of 4721 also states the mandate that the county council must make a finding that the proposed plan unit development will achieve a development of substantially higher quality than a conventional development would achieve. Yet the planning department memo states that planning believes that, quote, the basic schematic plan does not present the high quality site layout and design amenities that are associated with the expectations of the applicable county code section. Page 4 of planning memo states overall the entire layout, presentation, and design does not meet the development principles for PUDs. It also states other objections, such as the reduction of the amount of parking spaces, matters related to the structure, including but not limited to traffic safety and access through the intersection of Woodhome Avenue and Reisterstown Road. When Brown's Jewelers goes out of business, which it has announced, its building could be used for a more intense use, resulting in a more dangerous intersection. Only 7 neighbors attended the Woodhome meeting, yet Woodhome Avenue is the only means of ingress and egress that I'm aware of to Reisterstown Road that residents all along Woodhome must use. We suggest a proper notice should have been given to all entities along Woodhome Avenue. 4721 has other questionable language. Page 1 states, quote, that Chase is the nation's largest bank. I think that other banks may find this offensive and perhaps even untrue, depending on how nation's largest bank is defined. Page 2 states the club's first-class golf course. Pikesville has no public golf course. Is the council being asked to pay homage to a private entity that has private membership approval requirements? The
Mr.
language that
Zuckerberg?
deals with what the club is doing with the money from the lease, we don't believe is relevant. I'm sorry, did I get
I just
more?
want, you're over your 3 minutes. I just was going to ask you if you could wrap up your comments.
Okay, I'll leave it at that. I think that the rest of the substance of this speech or this talk is what I submitted this morning. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Zuckerberg.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go right ahead.
I just want to thank Mr. Zuckerberg for his thorough review of the PUD resolution and its accompanying documents.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, Chris?
Our next speaker is Patricia Malone. Let me go back to Ms. Malone. Ms. Malone?
Good evening again. And I wanted, Mr. Patoka gave a very good summary of the PUD resolution. I am the land use counsel for the developer in this project. I am the one who filed the application. I also am the one who sent out the invitations to the post-submission community meeting. And I would ask Mr. Zuckerberg to note that the comments from the Department of Planning were actually dated the day of the post-submission community meeting. So I got those a little late to get advice from the Department of Planning as to who to invite. So we did our own research, invited the community associations that were noted as being interested in the area and the adjoining property owners. I believe that I have satisfied the letter of the law with respect to the process itself. Those comments from that meeting were delivered to the councilmen. The agencies did comment. If Mr. Zuckerberg believes that the resolution itself is somehow flawed, I would like to review the memorandum that he submitted today. I have not had a chance to review that, but certainly could suggest edits to the resolution prior to the meeting on Monday if that's necessary. So unless you have any questions for me, I would like to get a copy of that memorandum if possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Malone. Are there any additional questions or comments? Any additional speakers? Chris?
We have one more speaker, Mr. Chair, and that would be Mr. Arthur Adler. And get him on here. Mr. Adler?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and all the council persons. My name is Arthur Adler, and I am a past president of the Woodhome Country Club, and I chair its real estate committee. On behalf of the members of Woodhome Country Club, I want to thank Councilman Patoka for introducing this PUD resolution. This parcel is excess club land, and its development will not affect our golf course. At the corner of Reisterstown Road and Woodhome Avenue, we believe it is primed for development with utilities, everything in place right at the commercial intersection. The club will have a long-term ground lease with Chase Bank, which will bring much needed long-term revenue to the club to assure our survival in the future. The club is also excited to bring, I was going to say the nation's largest bank, and I believe it is in many factors, but I'll say a large national bank to Pikesville that otherwise would not have a branch along Town Road, and more importantly, the jobs and the tax revenue that come with it. One thing that people should know about a Chase Bank, and they can see the one that we built on York Road at Bosley, it has many jobs in it because it's not just a bank branch, it has financial services. So there are probably 10 or 11 employees alone in this bank branch, which is why it might need a little bit more parking spaces than a typical bank branch that you see. And as has been stated, we will work with the county agencies to move the entrance as far away as possible to make it as safe as possible without affecting the golf course. In summary, I appreciate the council's support of this PUD resolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adler. Any additional questions, comments?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Just want to thank Mr. Adler for his testimony and appreciate the Woodhome leadership of the Woodhome Country Club, willing to work with the neighboring community. We've come a long way from where we were, and just want to thank the community members that provide testimonies today, and also the leadership of Woodhome that also shared their sentiment with my colleagues. So thank you, Mr. Adler, and thanks to everyone that provided testimony.
Okay. Thank you very much. We are 3 minutes behind. So I tell you what we will do. We will take maybe 5 minutes. We will reconvene at the other link that was sent to everyone. I will